This is an open letter for Mr. Tucker Carlson. Hello, sir. How are you? Hope everything is fine. Bravo. Bravo. You have had a lot of us as viewers. But here's the thing, Mr. Carlson. You have had a lot of us as your viewers for some time now, and something is not adding up. Let's review the people you have recommended. First of all, your view is a little critical of Israel, of what's going on. I don't care. Why are you shedding so much blood, and stop the shit over there already? And your attitude is pretty much like that, sort of like, it's your business, take care of it. That means stop shedding blood and start doing business. This territorial quest is very expensive for us, and it's decreasing our respect in the world, which it is. This is apparently your view, but what happens is that the people, or maybe I'm mistaken, this is not your view and it's just a figment of my imagination, but considering that this may be your view, that the shit show must stop, this is bad for our reputation, for our wallet, for our money, for our reputation, this is a whole bad shit show, which is a sane view to hold. But anybody you have recommended, as internationally, nationally as well as internationally, anybody you really recommended have a very opposite, in the very pro-Israel views once they get into office. I mean, let's review. You backed Milei in Argentina, and as soon as Milei became the leader, he literally put a yarmulke on and went to Israel and kissed the first Ashkenazi he could find. Sort of like, you literally converted, and you backed him, and then once he became president, he converted. You sound very critical of Israel, but anybody you back is a very pro-Israeli guy, to the point of insanity. Yes, let's go to the holy war. That kind of insanity. It's a holy war. Oh, that was Mele. You back Mr. Orban, Viktor Orban. Mr. Viktor Orban just decided to pull Hungary out of International Criminal Court because they don't like a ruling, because the ruling they made of Israel, which was critical of Israel. I'm sorry, first of all, if there's an International Criminal Court that you don't have to join, or you can pull out anytime you want, that's not a really that has no weight to it. Anybody can pull out anytime they want. This is not an International Criminal Court. This is a prostitute. You put it in when you like. You take it out when you don't like. When you're done. Salute. Apparently, international bodies, all international bodies, the UN has no more authority than a prostitute. They come in, they go as they like, they just pay their dues at the They just pay the prostitute and move on, do their business. No, and whenever they don't like the UN, they can, if they're powerful, they veto it, and if they're not powerful, they just walk out and piss on it. Are you serious? Hungary just walked out of International Criminal Court and took a piss on it to decrease its credibility because what? They made a ruling against our fellow white brothers who have just invaded some brown land. Because we don't like that rule, we think white people should be able to invade brown and black and yellow and red land. We think that's the right thing to do. Taiwan, basically they believe that if you turn Taiwan over, underneath it says made in US. And if you turn Japan over, underneath it says made in US. This is what they believe, that you can have your own country, but underneath it should say that you answer to us. And Hungary basically looks at it, picks up Asia, wants to see white owned under it. Bunch of Polish and Hungarian Jews in Asia, the Ashkenazi in Asia have their own homeland. Why not? The Norwegians have their own homeland, the Swedish have their own homeland, the English have their own homeland, the Scottish have their own homeland. The Ashkenazi should have their own homeland in the brown Asia. Yeah, they're a little lower on the chain as far as the Christians are concerned. Absolutely. Because they haven't yet converted to Christianity. Well, convert them to Christianity in your own countries and get it over with. What is this business of, under this disguise of Judaism, you basically says Ashkenazi should have their own homeland. Huh? Okay, in Europe somewhere, right? Because they're white. No, we think they're brown. We think they're brown, and we have convinced them to think of themselves as brown so they can get the hell out of here and go to Asia. And Mr. Orban is perfectly okay with that. And if you have to kill some millions and millions of Asians over there, it's okay. Because you feel insecure. Basically, Israel feels very insecure because they have stolen land and killed a lot of people. So I would feel insecure if I had killed a lot of people and stolen some land. Being insecure is not a reason to continue killing. You feel insecure in that neighborhood is because you kill a lot of people. The first step is stop killing people, not kill more people. In order for your final feeling of security, the first thing is you should stop killing, and then apologize for those who you have killed and somehow compensate and get the shit over with. You're not going that way, you're going towards more killing. This is another person you have recommended, Mr. Tucker Carlson, Mr. Trump. Mr. Carlson, you introduced Mr. Trump as anti-war and anti-revolution and anti-all of this. He's the guy who's going to calm the whole thing down. Apparently things haven't come down with Ukraine. Nothing has come down with Israel. There are a couple of new fronts are on the horizon. Maybe, maybe not. Who knows? And distraction with Greenland and Canada takeover, Panama takeover. Everybody is sort of like I would say, not I would say, who am I? I'm just a fucking alien. I could be wrong. But some would say it's a very crazy bull in the China shop kind of a situation, who's very pro-Israel. I'm sorry, your stated views, Mr. Tucker Carlson, is that you are against this chaos that Israel is producing in the Middle East. It seems you understand that who's the cause of this chaos is Israel. But then whoever you have recommended, who are candidates to get into political office, has come out very pro pro-Israel. I'm sitting wondering that, not that the other ones were not pro-Israel, the other ones were, there is no change, I'm trying to say. I mean, yeah, there is a change of view in transgenderism. I think that's a good idea. Maybe push it to the back of the line, and you know, it's not important, should not be the important topic of the day, but you know, good on those matters, but sort of like in terms of foreign policy, nothing has changed. Are you? And they're all very pro-Israel, very pro-insanity, very pro. You know, let's face it, it's just insanity. If you think you can have a, you know, white-only property in the middle of Arabian Peninsula, I mean, how impotent do you think the Arabs are? You can have just a whites-only resort on the side of the Mediterranean between all the Arabs. After killing so many of them and taking their land, and now they have the resource, and the rest of Arabs are going to sit there and hold their dick in their hand, and everything is going to be fine, and they're all going to be friendly forever and ever and ever and ever. Salute. I'm sorry, how many years has it been since Taiwan? How many years has it been? I mean, it doesn't go away. They're there, they're sitting there, that's their land. And that land is sitting right next to them, attached to them, next to them, Ukraine. They're not going anywhere. As soon as you run out of money, the natural order of things is that because that's their neighborhood, they're not going anywhere. As long as this is the, you know, the game theory. For them, it's an infinite game because it's their neighborhood and they're not going anywhere. This is part of, they believe that's part of their motherland. It just depends on how many years you think you can fund an army over there. Fund an army, whether it's not your army, Ukrainian army. Whoever is paying the bills, whoever is printing money and paying the bills in Ukraine is the one who's continuing with the war. If, you know, if paying the bills, if, you know, cash pallets were not arriving, I mean, cargo planes, things would look different. But the whole, you know, expenditure, economic expenditure, spending the added productivity of your men and women in somewhere else, trying to acquire more land for BlackRock, Vanguard, or State Street, it's a little insane. You gotta say, you gotta say, it's sort of like we don't have enough money for healthcare, school, or elder care, or this or that. We don't have any money for anything, any of this bullshit. But we do have as much as you want if you are planning on playing some kind of fireworks over there. Hopefully we can get some land. Hopefully we can scare the natives and get some land. You can do that. However, it's going to be a very expensive project. Anyway, both expense in terms of economic expense, life expense, destruction expense, all around, which again is going to be, looks like any kind of destruction and reconstruction, just more money in BlackRock, Vanguard, and State Street pockets. So any kind of activity is good for them. My point is this, Mr. Carlson, more and more and more of the candidates that you have entertained and stood behind turned out to be very pro-insanity, very pro-Israel from all over the world. Orban, they were willing to pull out. They did pull out of the International Criminal Court just so they give their approval to Israel for killing enough brown people to keep them down, to keep them from demanding their land back. Okay, this is a person you backed. Others, it seems, sort of like you advocate for logical thinking, but then the candidates that you back are the ones who are doing a lot of illogical thinking. So Bukele in El Salvador, you backed him. Apparently, just as King of Jordan, Hassan Hussein, whatever his name is, just like King of Jordan has got the most number of CIA hosts, the most number of CIA black sites in the world, is that they got some real bad black sites of their own in Jordan. You found something like that, another Arab in El Salvador, which you backed, which now seems to be housing black sites for DHS. Here, there's black sites in the Middle East in Jordan, and we have some black sites for CIA, and we have some black sites for DHS in El Salvador. The prison complex business that he has started is apparently, by orders of Uncle Sam. You start this, is keeping prisons up there. It's too expensive for us. How about we ship our prisoners here? And here habeas corpus doesn't apply, and here apparently they don't follow in any international code of conduct, and they're okay with it, and they have given the middle finger to the whole international community, because apparently El Salvador itself has become a US-owned corporation, a CIA-owned corporation. That's exactly what they're telling Panama, that you are not a CIA-owned corporation anymore, but we want you to come back to the bosom of the CIA and become a CIA-owned corporation, just like El Salvador. Apparently, that's how it is. Because unless you're a, basically unofficial U.S. territory, but not a territory. So, because most nationalist countries, they don't want anybody else's citizens, sort of like, no, if we are man enough, we take care of our own citizens. We don't need somebody else's problems. But but Bukele, it seems, is getting enough funding from the NSA, the DHS, that through Bitcoin, through this, that, or the other, is getting enough funding to run a prison complex there. At the beginning, it seemed it was doing okay for El Salvador, but apparently now it's more than just El Salvador. That's going to be a whole El Salvador corporation in Central America, imprisoning whoever DHS wants, and yet more and more, basically, they're sending all U.S. prisons to El Salvador. Just basically a couple of contracts. They get some U.S. prison-oriented corporations start some business down there as well, along with the El Salvadorian official prison system, and the whole thing becomes one big prison country to hold, because it's cheaper to hold them over there where their laws don't apply. Laws that have to apply here don't apply there. This is like the French had a French Guiana. They use French Guiana to send their most notorious criminals. I believe. I believe. I could be wrong about that, but there's a famous movie about it. Papillon, or bow tie. Butterfly. It's the story of a criminal, French criminal who, was sent to some prison complex in French Guiana. Surprise, surprise. The empires put their foot exactly in the same footsteps of the last empire. So, congratulations, the United States have got its own French Guiana in El Salvador, where they can send their prisoners, and hoping that these prisoners that go over there never come back because they die of some kind of a tropical disease or something, and the people back home are safe from their misdeeds. Yes and no. You start with the criminals, apparently giving the criminals no rights. Then you don't stop there. You start gathering up a lot of innocent but inconvenient people as well, and sending them to the same places just because now has been established policy to not only get rid of the criminal body, but unacceptable views as well, and anybody who irritates you, and slowly it becomes a whimsical situation, sort of like, oh, send them to El Salvador, he irritates me. You will eventually get there. You get the ball rolling, and pretty soon they call them black sites. You can call them black towers. They used to send anybody who the system or the king or the system, anybody that they didn't like, they would just literally put them somewhere that nobody can find them. They call them dungeons. El Salvador is a dungeon for DHS now, NSA, DHS, and whoever is in charge. Many people can send many people to El Salvador dungeons with very little oversight, because there is no oversight in a Caesar-like environment. What oversight? I believe they fired all the attorney general. I don't know how your system works on this specific part of the planet, but as an alien, it seemed, firing the people who have the right to look very carefully at what spending takes place, and people don't steal or don't take bribes. If you remove those, I'm just saying, maybe bribery will return. If there's no oversight, here is one thing. Another thing that was interesting: tips. They said tips from now on, we're not going to tax tips. That sounds really nice. Thank you very much. Up to this point, I haven't been accepting any tips, but I will, because the other day I was forced to tip. Basically, I went and picked up some oxygen. And anyway, something. I was basically shamed into tipping. That is, you see that, you see this is empty. You see, and it was right at the moment that I got the change back, so I had to basically. I was shamed into tipping. I wonder why. Then I sat and think as why they're so keen on getting tipped. I thought that it's just, it doesn't matter how much you tip. But the point is, if they can get enough tips, they can basically stop paying taxes. Because the owner, doesn't matter if they get only tipped $10 a month, they can write off $1,000 a month as a tip. And not only the workers, forget about them. That's not a big problem. The problem is the store owner himself is going to consider a lot of his income, a lot of his profit as tip. Sort of like, this is not my profit, this was my tip. Sort of basically even out the cost and the expense, and whatever is left over, he wouldn't consider it as an income, as a profit, but as a tip. So, because it's possible, sort of like at least a portion of it. If the owner has to share some parts, the tip with the employees, in many places the owners actually share the tip with the employees. They get a share from the employees, the owners. Yes, they do. My point is this, and the owner can consider himself as his own employee, and this is one way of getting rid of any kind of paying taxes. Sort of like a lot of store owners will stop paying taxes because if based on the law that the tips are not taxed, that means you don't have to declare them. So what if you consider a big portion of your income as your tip? This wasn't a profit. I knew this guy from before. I had a relationship, and at least half of what he paid me as a tip. Who's there to tell him no? You see what I mean? When you say your tips are not taxed, basically means that you don't have to declare them, and anybody can stop declaring at least half of their income, net income, as tips, of which they don't have to declare. Not a bad idea for the little guy. I mean, I kind of doubt Jeff Bezos can declare half of his income as tip. But the rest of it, Mr. Tucker Carlson, you kept on advocating for these folks that are very pro-Israeli, very, very racist. And the guy, in case of you back the guy, it seems you're very cautious of the Israelis from what you say, but you back a guy that is very pro-Israeli. The guy literally converts to Judaism, apparently declares himself as an Ashkenazi. I don't know, can you declare yourself as Ashkenazi? You can become Jewish, but you can't declare yourself as Ashkenazi. Anyway, he declared himself as Ashkenazi, and he went to Israel and he kissed the wall and the ring and everything else. And you backed him. I'm sorry. One of these things are not like the others. You are not advertising what you're selling. In fact, you're giving an opposite advertisement of what you're selling. What you're advertising is pro-sanity. Israel should, try to be friends with their neighbor. and do business with them instead of just bombing them so we don't have to spend so much money in Israel. That's your, or I could be wrong, that's your perspective. But then anybody you advocated for up to now, once they got into office, became very opposite of this. So no, Israel has the right to be there and has the right to kill as many as they want and grab land as much as they can. And the problem is the other side is no better. Biden was fully funding Israel. Harris said, of course we're going to fully fund Israel. And the left in Europe, Mr. Starmer is very pro-Israel, and it's not a left and right issue here with regards to your foreign policy. Your foreign policy of Europe and North America has been imperialist for a very long time. Very imperialist. And it doesn't matter left goes in or right goes in, it's sort of like punches and jabs. The left does jabbing and the right does uppercutting. The left jabs, the Democrats go in and jab, and the Republicans come in and do an uppercut. Jab, jab, uppercut. This is how your system is worked. That's how the empire is being run. Jab, jab, uppercut. Democrat, Democrat, Republican. Democrat, Democrat. This is your foreign policy and domestic policy. All of our policy is the policy of a very authoritarian police state that not only believes that they are responsible to policing their own people, but also they're responsible policing the rest of the world as well. This idea that supposedly Mr. your pal and buddy, I guess, maybe not, Steve Bannon, this idea of Steve Bannon that somehow he's anti-globalist. I'm sorry, if you support Israel, Israel is one of the main levers of globalism. If you support Taiwan, is one of the main leverage of globalism, in which Uncle Sam's managers are at the top. So on one hand, Steve Bannon just keeps going on and on and on about globalism, against globalism. But then when it comes to action, he fully supports Taiwan and Israel and Ukraine, and we got to go jam it up their ass, and yes, we can. And I'm thinking to myself, so you're against globalism, but for globalism? When we are in charge, it's not called globalism. But if somebody else is in charge, it is called globalism. Oh, now I get it. It's again your left and right, jab, jab, uppercut, jab, jab, uppercut. Your views match perfectly. It's like there is no third view here. There is no second view. Then you need a third view. I think that's why Mr. Ron Paul and Rand Paul have been homeless for so long, because you don't have a place for a third view. I have a feeling Mr. Ron Paul and Mr. Bernie Sanders agreed on 90% of the stuff, but there is no third party to house them. And there is no need for it, because it's jab, jab, uppercut. There's no need for a third party. And both parties follow the same policies, more or less, to some extent, greater and lesser extent. Policies that seem to be not only anti the rest of the world, very racist against the rest of the world, but very racist domestically as well. And against the natives as well, your own natives, because this unabashed capitalism, which is basically you're telling your citizens that we know that your children are tomorrow going to be part of this society, but we, the rich people, don't think it's important to educate them. We think it's more important for us to put our money towards war overseas than educating the rest of the people in our society. This is what I'm trying to say, that Mr. Mr. Warren Buffett's idea, or Mr. Walton family's idea, political idea, is all about self. It's all about self. It's all about and it's a very short-term selfish matter in which they don't mind their taxes, their money going to fund campaigns that takes money from the taxes, and instead of spending money on educating the people of their own land, they spend this money bombing other people's lands. Just because we want more lands. Do you care to the quality of the people on your land, or you just want more land? Mr. Trump, Mr. Tucker Carlson, do you care about the quality of people on your land, or you just want more land? Mr. Tucker Carlson, you just talk against imperialism, but anybody you recommend is a very white imperialist. Anybody you recommend that gets into office, once they get to the office, it becomes clear that they're very white and imperialist. Believe in white imperialism. I thought you were saying, no, we don't want an empire. Salute. You're not bringing up the quality of people on your own land. However, you're taking money from the people of your own people and using it to oppress and depress and suppress people of other lands. Because apparently you want more land, but you're not really interested in the quality of the people of your own land. The people you already got, you're not interested in the quality of their education. Why should be you interested in the quality of education of people in Iraq? Iraq is right now, at least the financial sector of Iraq is under total control of United States, but United States, some of the representatives are basically saying that, you know what, no, Iran has too much influence in Iraq, so we have to go subdue Iran. I'm sorry, first of all, you have total control over Iraq. You have subdued Iraq, but now you're saying that somehow Iran has an influence? Well, they share a culture, they share a religion. What the fuck did you expect? They shouldn't have any influence? So because they have an influence, we should go subdue them as well. Next up, Pakistan. And you eventually find out that, and one more thing, Mr. Tucker Carlson, you say your channel is depressed by YouTube. No, it's not. Your channel is always on top of my algorithm to watch. So, my channel is depressed and suppressed. Your channel is not. It always comes up first. You got to see this. What Tucker Carlson has to say about this. I would say, I would say that you have some kind of connection to the deep state that they call it. I would say you surely have some kind of connection, because your videos are always first on top of my viewing list. But my videos, my numbers go backward. You know, on the first day they showed 150 views, then on the second day it shows 75 views. It subtracts viewers, and now it just doesn't go up. It's sort of like, nope, nobody wants to see your videos. Stop producing them. So I would say no. I am someone they don't want to hear, and you're someone they want everybody to hear. I wonder why. Because you're misleading. Anybody you're advocating for, before going to office, they're a little ambiguous, but once they're in office, they become a total white imperialist. They turn into a total white imperialist. Sort of like, if the previous one was a half imperialist, this one is 100% imperialist. This was the advocation of Mr. Carlson. Are you serious? It's just, I'm sorry, please don't recommend anybody. Or change your views and say, yes, I'm a white imperialist and I believe we should rule. Make the position very clear. But this idea that from El Salvador turning into a DHS black hole, black sites, NSA black site, so there is they already said, besides Guantanamo is still very expensive. The problem with Guantanamo is it has to be run with some kind of American standards, so it becomes very expensive. You know what is cheap? El Salvador, because we are not in charge. Even when seem like Uncle Sam's managers are in charge in domestic jails, even when it seems like it, you find out that only like 3 people in the jail are actually state officials or federal officials. The rest is a private company. Again, the state keeps separating itself from liability. But what does that mean? That means the laws that we have to abide by, this private corporation doesn't have to abide by. In our eyes, you have some right. In their eyes, you have no rights, and we don't see it because we don't see it. They're in charge. Seriously, now in El Salvador, you have taken one step further. They have taken their step further. Now there is a different country. We have some black sites over there. We send anybody we don't like or anybody the Caesar finds irritating to El Salvador in their black sites. And hopefully you stay alive between all those, with all those tropical diseases. But hey, if you die, we don't mind. Neither do the El Salvadorians. It's like one Arab, King of Jordan, over there in charge of the CIA black sites, and one Arab over here in El Salvador in charge of the NSA black sites. Okay. NSA and Caesar and whoever else knows the magic password gets to punish their people that irritate them. Okay. It's less like 2 political parties, more like 2, because nobody has any new ideas. Everybody's on board with all of this. It's like 2 different families fighting over supremacy for a limited period of time over Washington D.C. It's no longer you know, for some time ago, democracy became the stop being the this democracy is just. I'm sorry that many of you seem to be so in love with it because you're so in love with yourself and you think self is all that is important. But this self that is all that is important in democracy, and this self is driving those people at the top to be a lot more selfish. It's all going about self. This is more. This is better for me. Well, a lot of people with a lot of racist ideas think things should be run in a different way because it's better for them. So this idea that the whole democracy is subverted. The pool of the people you can that you can vote for are very limited. It's a very small pool of people that very rich people have backed, and many of them have many of them are not in touch with reality. They have been, and many of them who are in touch with reality are not are let's say they have sold their soul in order to not be in touch with reality because reality is too harsh. I mean, anybody can see from the available information, anybody can see right from wrong. It's just a matter of profits and interests that seem to be the determining factor for which path to take. I think that's wrong.